This is Ouija Boards and Midnight Marks, where a spirit board conversation sparked our spiritual evolution. I'm Shale.
And I'm Cheyenne. And each week we explore a world where there is much more than meets the eye. So pour yourself a drink and join us as we cheers to a witchin' good time.
All right, welcome back, Ouija babies. It is our very special episode that we love to do every single year in January, in this silly Gregorian calendar timeline that we are all a part of. But we are so honored and excited to be welcoming back the lovely moon Mama Gena, to give our astrology reading for 2025. I can't believe how many years we've gotten to do this, and the insight that Gina provides every single year is just incredible. I think, is this going on five years now?
At least four.
At least four. Yeah. So thank you so much again, Gina, for being here with us. And to kick things off, what are you drinking tonight?
I am just drinking a cup of hot tea. It's freezing here in Denver. We've had the Arctic blast, so I'm just enjoying a nice cup of tea this evening and warming up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, it was like -4 when I woke up this morning. What was it for you, Cheyenne?
It was
In
probably like
lovely
40, 45
desert.
when I took Willie for her walk at 7 this morning. And then I think it was like a high of 62. It's kind of cold here right now.
Just a little bit.
It has been getting down to the 30s, which has been a fun kind of treat, except for getting up. Willie consistently gets me up at 6:30 every morning. And so that difference between 6:30 and 7:30 before the sun comes up, where I'm like, I don't have my down coat. I just have like a fuzzy sweater thrown over the kitchen table. And every morning I'm always like outside, like I wish I had my down coat. But it's okay.
You've acclimated already.
Yeah, the blood has thinned. It is remarkable how quick that happens. It just evaporates out of you in the summertime.
Yep.
Well, even though it's been chilly, I'm drinking an iced drink.
Yeah, what
it's
you
not
drink?
anything fancy. It is a lime and ginger mocktail, I guess, which I'm going to call that. It's literally just a can of soda water. But we're going to pretend it's a
But when you
mocktail
put it in
tonight.
a glass.
Lime and ginger, you
I
don't
put it in
like
a fancy
ginger.
glass. There's ice. I have a little straw. It's a sustainable bamboo straw.
Is there ginger though? You're not a ginger girly.
There is ginger because it's been an emotionally exhausting week, and also your girl's feeling a little noshy today. So when I am feeling noshy, I make myself drink ginger.
Being tough. You're being brave.
Yeah. Because you got to just like work with the herbs when they want to work with you, even if you don't like love the flavor, they do amazing things.
They do. Well, what a great segue. Speaking of the herbs, I'm drinking a cup of Thinning of the Veil Apothecary mugwort tea.
Amazing.
With 2 dropperfuls of Shale's Seer tincture.
Ooh, that's a good combo. Like you have the digestive blend with that?
No, it's just mugwort. It's just mugwort.
Just mugwort. Okay, got it.
But I did 2 droppers, so you can really taste it. Because I didn't get to do my infusion for quite as long. So, yeah. My shameless plug for Thinning of the Veil Apothecary in my museums are fucking awesome mug. Because every episode is coming at you with one of Cheyenne's politically themed mugs. Support local art, support local science, support your local library. Your local library has culture passes, friends, to museums in your town. And probably other cool things. Mine has a seed library. Mine has a bakeware library. Go to your local library. Get your library card. That's your Cheyenne Soapbox PSA for today.
From the Lady Ox librarian herself.
Yes, please support the people who are doing the good work in your communities, because that matters more than ever. But Shale, what is in the Seer tincture?
There is mugwort, tropical vervain, lavender, and mint. So good one for the astral projection traveler types, and to help with some psychic enhancement, and also it's just calming to the nervous system. So It's a
Trying
hug
to
and a cup, that thing.
trying to get off this planet.
Yeah.
I also
Save a
thought
seat.
this year was a nice, appropriate foreshadowing for our 2025 forecast. So, speaking of forecasting all the things, let's do a little bit of divination. We are using our Pope Girls tarot deck, which is our New Year tarot deck, because she gives.
Ooh, there's a jumper.
Because she gives. And she also gives us affirmations and questions to hold on to. So I'm curious to see.
That was a scary thing.
I'm not surprised, but I am curious to see how this ties into our forecasting today. So before we get too ahead of ourselves, we have drawn our Eight of Swords.
Oh, God damn it.
Oh, isn't she beautiful? She is. It's not her fault. This is where we are. And sometimes accepting where we are is the key to forward motion. So,
Yeah.
our Eight of Swords, change your perspective. You can find your own way out. Upright, feeling trapped or cornered, dangerous codependency, physical restrictions. Our affirmation, I release guilt and shame from my life so I can move forward.
Mm.
And our reflection questions. Sorry, Shell.
I was just saying, I love that.
Oh, it's good. She's good. She's appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reflection questions, from what other angle can I view this? And can I articulate where I truly wish to be?
Mm.
She can also represent intense frustration, lashing out at others, and perseverance. So, this tarot card really reaffirms. We talked a little bit before we started recording this about a word that we're taking with us into this new year. It's a practice we've talked about before. I usually pick one on my birthday. I did pick this year's word on my birthday, so I think I have talked about it already. But my word is very affirmed by this card, and that is surrender. That's the word that I've chosen to get me through this next year. That's the message download I've had from my guides, and this feels fairly appropriate. Surrender, but also perspective is a really interesting game. And you can get really caught up in belief and stagnancy, and while standing in what you believe in is really important, you don't want to prevent your own actions, right? You don't want to like tie yourself up either. Like, this girl could get out of this if she tried, but you gotta try. So
I'm feeling that, especially coming online again after the 12-hour TikTok ban I just experienced today. Lots of feelings around perspective and like the smoke and screens and what's going on behind the scenes these days. And yeah, very interesting times we are in, which I feel like we say at least 50 times a year anymore. But yeah, anyway.
It is interesting. So we're bringing this episode, friends, to you a little bit differently today, where Miss Gena has lovingly pre-recorded your forecast for you, so we don't interrupt and throw us off. And so we can also sit down with our notebooks and our pens and pay really close attention. So we're still going to chat and talk for a little bit here, but I want to encourage you, if you are listening to this episode, if you are in a place where you have the time to pull up your birth chart, to sit down, to maybe have your phone calendar out to mark some of these important transits, maybe important dates to keep in mind for you. Now's a great time to pause and do that as well. And then I also invite us all to consider kind of how, if you're someone who has like an annual word practice, or like an annual affirmation practice, how does that tie in to all of this lovely astrology? So I'm curious if this is something the two of you do as well. Pick a word to guide you through the year, what kind of feels appropriate for you.
I wouldn't say I do as a word per se. I am somebody who likes to do not so much like New Year's intentions, or not, excuse me. I do like to do New Year's intentions. I don't like to do New Year's resolutions. So I feel like, yeah. And I always limit it to like 10 so I don't get like too crazy. But that's kind of how I go into it. But Gina, I'm curious if you have a word.
I do. I haven't done it yet this year. I haven't sat down with this. I feel like it's already March at this
Mhm.
point. Year has been going so fast, but I've always loved to make, and I am no artist, but draw a roadmap of where I'm starting in the year and some of my big goals and stops along the way. And I like to fill it in also throughout the year as to some of the side streets that I've taken in order to get back on the road. But I
I
Love
also
love
that.
that.
do, thank you. It looks like a 5-year-old drew it, but it's mine and I love it. But I also do a word. And this year, really thinking about the astro weather that we're really coming into and thinking about 2024 and all that we've been through, I chose awakening this year.
Mm,
Oh,
Yeah.
I got chills.
I
Yeah.
love awakening.
Mm. Because we're going to be embarking and embracing, I feel like, on some really significant changes. And I'm really excited to get this podcast out. I think that it's going to give people a lot of grace to give themselves, but we are really being called to step up and step into our paths without, I would say, seeing the clear path ahead. But we are in an awakening right now, and the energy is faster than we've probably ever seen. It's more potent than we've probably ever experienced. And while all this is happening, and while it might feel, just like a lot at times, everything is very much unfolding exactly as it should be if we're awake
Mm,
and if we're paying
Mm.
attention.
yeah.
That's
Surrender to
I'm
the
gonna take that.
awakening. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
Like,
Or like I love what you said about like it will unfold as long as you're awake. Like I just feel like that's gonna be something, a little nugget of wisdom I'm taking through the rest of the year.
yeah,
mm,
pay attention.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. The signs are all around us, but also pay attention, be patient, and sometimes just trusting the process.
Mm.
It's easier said than done.
Trust
Yeah.
the you know what? Okay, I love this. I love this. Trusting the process. So we've drawn our Eight of Swords for beginning of the year energy, getting us through our energy. Where are we here in January? Where are we ending up? Where are we ending up at the end of this year? Um, that's the ooh,
Ooh,
that's the
yes.
real question.
Yeah.
Four of Wands.
That looks so
Look
nice.
how cute and
That
happy.
really,
Yeah.
that looks promising.
It's also a little midsummery though, so don't get too.
Oh, okay.
Look at me just trying to squeeze every ounce. No, I'm really excited about this. I like surrender. I like awakening. I look like we may not want to live in revolutionary times, but we do. And so it's a lot easier to follow that roadmap
I'm
and take
sure.
those side streets as they happen. But
The side streets, but they sometimes are shortcuts.
that's true. Oh, I love
Very true.
I'm
Sometimes
excited for
they're
that.
longer, but the scenery is nice. So,
Oh, yes. Okay. Affirmation for Four of Wands. Four of Wands feels like the invitation of perspective shift a little bit.
Mhm.
Our
Ooh.
affirmation is I take the time to enjoy what life has to offer. It's not only focusing on all of the things that are falling down, but putting our energy and efforts into the things that are building our communities back up. That's Four of Wands energy.
Okay.
Celebration and accomplishment, strong support. Um, Disruptions and setbacks can be the reverse of that, supporting more than you can carry, but then pushing through to that celebration in the end. So perseverance. Our reflection questions are what accomplishments do I want to celebrate? And am I sharing my light with those around me? So Four of
Oh,
Wands to me is our permission slip for this year,
yeah.
a little bit.
That is so in line. It
Oh,
is so in line. I mean, but there's no coincidences. Yep.
Heather,
Mm-hmm. Where we're
keep
starting and where we're.
going. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Fast. Where your energy goes matters this year more than ever, online and off. So
Yes.
pay attention to the signs. Oh, I'm so excited. We're not going to waste any more of your time. We're going to get right into this. Grab your notebooks, get your pens, make yourself a cup of anything delicious. But before, Gina, you take us through our roadmap for the year ahead, what do you have going on this year? Where do people need to know where to find you? Where can we send them all to flock before we dump all of this knowledge on them?
Yes, so I think I would say the easiest way to connect with me is through Instagram. I make it really simple. Just Instagram DM. I can be I can be connected on Instagram through Gina Hone, Hon. So it's GenaHon. And direct message is the perfect way for me. And then we can connect from there or email. And I have a long last name, so we can just put the email probably in the show notes.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
yes. But I would say either email or if we're connected on Instagram, those would be the best two ways.
Perfect. Easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have some exciting things happening this year.
Yeah.
In the astrology realm, can you talk a little bit about your retreat and what people can expect from that? We'll have all of that info in the show notes and on a slide in this video as well for the people who are listening on YouTube. But yeah, I want to make
Yes.
sure people know they can work with you in real life too.
Yes. So I am a part of a very intentional retreat that a dear friend of mine is she's facilitating. Her name is Cassie, and it's in Costa Rica in
Mm.
Playa Chiquita. And it is going to be from April 20th to the April 27th. So it's a week. The pricing is very, very affordable. It includes inversion workshops, meditations, breath work, workshops, vegetarian meals, and she is intentionally focusing on the chakras and moving through the chakras. And I'm providing an astrological aspect to that. And it's going to be very, yoga centric, yoga based, but also there's going to be a lot of free time as well to really be able to explore the area that you're in. So it's going to be a 7-day retreat facilitated by Cassie, and she has her yoga teacher training 500. She has a PhD, and she is she's just so intentional, and she's built out such a beautiful program that really embarks on like a self-love journey, and it's filled with equal parts restorative as well as adventure and just really being able to get back to you and incorporating the chakra system in that as well. So I am so, so honored to be able to be a part of it, to be able to stand next to her and help her, and then provide an astrological aspect to it as well, and how the planets align with the chakras. I'll also be facilitating an ecstatic dance piece to it. And that's something that's so near and dear to my heart, and something that I do every week and is part of my weekly rhythm.
I love that.
Sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
Okay,
thank you.
so we're all going to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
There's a couple more openings. I
We're never
think there are
coming back.
2 or 3 more openings. So
Perfect.
yes,
This
very
sounds like what
excited.
you're looking for. Get
Mm.
on it. Info in the show notes, links in the show notes, to Miss Gina, to all of these lovely things. And yeah, thank you so much, as always, for being willing to share so much information. I'm really looking forward to sitting with this forecast. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that you're so abundant
Yes,
in
please,
all of the
please
good.
support Gina. Like the fact that she does this multiple hour reading every year for us for completely free for our audience. Like whatever support you can give to Gina, follow her on Instagram, all of the things. She's incredible. And this is such a generous offering that she gives to us each year. So thank you, Gina. Can't express that enough.
It goes right back. I'm always so honored to be on a part of your podcast and that you continue to, invite me back every year. It's so mutual. So thank you both so much. I'm very honored always, always to be on your show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, everyone, stick around, grab your notebook, grab your pen. You're
Let's get
ready.
into it.
We can do this. Awaken, surrender, survive.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for having me, ladies. I'm always so honored to be on this podcast. And in true nature and form, how we've always done this, I love starting with a recap of the previous year. So, 2024, when we think about 2024, it was a year, I would say, of very transformative energies. Um, it was a really impactful year and marked by significant astrological movements and energetic shifts. So it offered us really an opportunity for growth, healing, transformation, and we went over some really big key themes of 2024 in the last podcast. So I'm just going to summarize them here just so we can kind of see where we came from to see how we've progressed and move forward into the energies of 2025. So I want to touch on the eclipses, some of the personal planets in their retrogrades, Uranus and Taurus conjunct Jupiter, as well as Jupiter's transit from going through Taurus, and we'll be talking about its dip into Gemini, and then Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, along with Pluto's movement between Capricorn and Aquarius throughout 2024. So to get started, in 2024, the eclipses. And last year, the eclipses really amplified like our sense of energetic impact between the new and full moons, bringing really a long-lasting energy felt very much up to 6 months after the events. So when we think about eclipses, eclipses align with the north and south nodes, emphathi- emphasizing faded themes. So thinking about 2024, the key eclipses and dates were on March 25th, 2024, where we had a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Aries, which really brought us an emotional shift regarding balance and fairness in relationships. This was um, impacting all of us who had planets or points between 0 to 10 degrees of the cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And then on April 8th, we had the 2024, we had the total solar eclipse in Aries, and that was at 19 degrees of Aries. And this was a huge reset. I mean, I went out I went out to Texas during the time of the eclipse and was able to experience this eclipse in its totality and in its like full essence. And it was so powerful. During this time, total solar eclipse in Aries, April 8th. This was a reset with themes of courage, independence, like taking a step forward with new beginnings. And this really impacted those of us who had planets or points between 14 to 24 degrees of those cardinal signs. And again, the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. And a big transit or alignment I would like to call during this Aries total solar eclipse was a conjunction to Chiron in Aries, which really fostered deep healing during this time. And I very much felt that. I would, I think a lot of people felt that the impact of Chiron, which is the wounded healer, conjunct or sitting right next to Aries, during the time of this solar eclipse, and continuing on after the event as well. But then we had on September 17th, 2024, we had a partial lunar eclipse at 25 degrees of Pisces, and this was starting a new eclipse cycle, moving into the Pisces Virgo territory, which we will be discussing in the 2025 breakdown of the astrology themes. And this was the lunar eclipse in Pisces was really a theme of culmination. This was a lot of emotional surrender. We were being called to let things go. And this impacted those of us who had planets or points between 20 to 30 degrees of the mutable signs. Mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And the influence here was the moon conjoining or really being influenced by Neptune in Pisces, which is the planetary ruler, although Neptune at the time was retrograde. So this really added a very thick layer of depth and potential emotional overwhelm during this time. And again, this was on September 17th of 2024. Then we had on October 2nd, 2024, we had the solar eclipse at 10 degrees of Libra. So this was focusing on balance, harmony, and negotiations within relationships and impacted us between 5 to 15 degrees of the cardinal signs. Again, those cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So key eclipse themes during 2024. This was predominantly on the Libra and Aries axis, and will dip into 2025 briefly for one final eclipse, which we'll be talking about. But this very much signified balance and independence between the Aries influence, with it being in the North Node, and then with our relationships needs and where we might have been putting those to the back burner or possibly compromising those with the South Node in Libra. We're seeing our first Pisces in Virgo axis for the eclipse themes in 2024. That was new for us in September, and that very much signified trust, surrender, and very much more of an emotional alignment. And then we had the personal planets in their retrogrades in 2024. So we had Mercury retrograde. We had 4 retrogrades occurring in earth and fire signs during the Mercury retrogrades, and that very much was highlighting practical reassessment and action-oriented, I would say, revisions. When we think about retrogrades, it's always about like rethinking, redoing, realigning, reestablishing, and moving forward from those spaces and places. So when we had the Venus retrograde, that very much was a focus on relationship, values, and financial matters. And then we had Uranus and Taurus conjunct Jupiter, and that was exact. So when we think about a conjunction, and conjunction is when two planets, so in this case, Uranus and Jupiter in a sign, which was in Taurus, being very close in degree point. We like to call it like kind of sitting next to each other in the sky and working together. And so the Uranus in Taurus conjunct Jupiter in Taurus, the exact conjunction was on April 20th, 2024. And Uranus conjunct Jupiter in Taurus, it it was active for about 7 months, but it really signified amplified themes of innovation, financial shifts, and breakthroughs. There was new approaches to stability, growth, and unexpected opportunities. We also have the planet of Jupiter transitioning from Taurus into Gemini. So in 2024, Jupiter will transit from Taurus to the sign of Gemini, marking a very significant shift in energies from the grounded, practical themes of Taurus that are, more about safety, security, and stability, into the more like air-driven, logical, heady sign of Gemini, which is curious, communicative, and intellectually expansive. So here are the timelines for that. Jupiter is going to transit from Taurus to Gemini on May 25th, 2024, and it will remain in Gemini until June 9th of 2025. And this is going to be, Jupiter stays in a sign for about a year. And when we think about Jupiter and Gemini, this very much emphasizes growth in communication, learning, adaptability, and networking. So, with it having been in the Taurus phase, this, until May of 2024, this was more of a grounded expansion, focusing on material security, our personal wealth, self-worth, and more of those kind of more steady energies. But when it transitions into Gemini starting in May 24th, this is all about intellectual growth, adaptability, and communication. So we had kind of an uptick in those energies. And then we also had Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. So these things are bringing this themes of kind of bridging the dreams and reality of Neptune and Saturn, also with spiritual discipline and releasing outdated patterns. So this was a really strong impact, focusing on collective empathy and addressing, possible what's real and what's not, what's more of our dreams and illusions and what's actual and tangible and more of a reality. We also had Pluto's movement between Capricorn and Aquarius. So Pluto's movement between Capricorn and Aquarius in 2024 very much signified a huge astrological event. This reflected societal and personal transformation. So the breakdown of the movement, in 2024, Pluto in Aquarius direct went from January 1 to September 1, 2024. And let's see here. Pluto remains in Aquarius, continuing this influence on themes of innovation and collective progress, technology, and power dynamics within communities during this time. And apologies, I said January 21st. It's actually January 21st, 2024 to September 1st, 2024, when Pluto entered into the sign of Aquarius. And then Pluto retrogrades back into Capricorn September 2nd. So Pluto retrograde re-enters Capricorn. So that was a revisiting of themes of structural change, authority, governance, and traditional power systems. So it gave us in the beginning of January to September kind of a look into where we want to progress into and what we want to really push ourselves forward into in those Aquarius themes. But then retrograding back into Capricorn September 2nd really made sure that we had solid ground to walk on. And then on November 19th, 2024, Pluto returns to Aquarius. So Pluto is going to re-enter Aquarius during this time for a significant stay in Aquarius. It's entered in and done its final push into the Aquarian energies with no more interruptions or retrogrades pushing it back into the Capricorn energies. So this will solidify the Aquarian themes of progress, collective empowerment, eccentric, technology, and themes of just experiences that we have never encountered before. And Pluto will remain in Aquarius until 2024. So we'll go into that once we start our 2025 astrology predictions. But the significance of this was, Pluto's final moments in Capricorn brought us closure into the transformations and kind of like the governance of institutions and hierarchies that was initiated in 2008 when Pluto first entered into Capricorn. And now that it's moved into Aquarius, the transits into Aquarius very much usher us into a new era of revolutionizing societal systems in a way that is so progressive and has never before been seen. And this is very much emphasizing collective innovation and equality. Um, so we'll see what's to come in these next 20 years, but we'll dive into it more. So if we look at the big themes of 2024, we can look back and track those eclipses by degree points, really identifying which house in your astrological natal chart these eclipses activated to see what areas of life were really lit up. And embracing the change of 2024's energy supports all of our healing and transformative journeys that we've been on. But also during that time, excuse me, in 2024, there was a call to balance our relationships, especially during the Aries Libra eclipses, to aim for more harmony while maintaining our individuality and to see what no longer served us in the area of relationships. There could have been a lot of mental overwhelm, especially with the Neptune influences focusing on really incorporating grounding practices to avoid escapism, really when things got too overwhelming in those Piscean energies, and really sent us on, could have been an emotional, could have been a mental overwhelm. And that's the word that really comes to me. But really, with 2024, we were being called to take action in a very thoughtful way. We had a lot of the planets in earth and water signs. And, with incorporating a lot of the retrograde, we have also been really asked to plan, reassess, and refine before launching into the new initiatives. And we're really going to see the influence of these new initiatives in 2025. So getting into this year, 2025, we talked about the word of what I see of the word of the year, which is awakening, and really looking at what the energies of 2025 are embodying. This is going to be a year of transformation and realignment. So, as we move into 2025, the cosmic energies of this upcoming year are really encouraging us to embrace innovation, embrace transformation, and really find stabilization within all of this. So, this is going to be really significant as we have planetary movements that are going to guide both the collective and our personal journeys. So we have Pluto in Aquarius continuing its transformative influence, amplifying these needs of social progress, technological innovation, and a very deep push for authenticity. So this year is really going to be a time of breaking free of outdated structures and stepping into more inclusive and forward-thinking energies for the future, We have Saturn's transition from Pisces into Aries that is going to really bring us an energetic shift mid-year. And this really is going to be calling for a dissolving of illusions and very much a grounding in spiritual aspirations. So when Saturn's entering into Pisces, there could be an expected burst of energy that very much supports bold leadership and the building of independent and innovative foundations. And then we have Jupiter and Gemini that will be moving into Cancer. So this is going to be a year of like looking at what we need from more of an emotional and self-compassionate point of view. We have the nodes of date, fate, and destiny are going to shift into the Pisces and Virgo axis, really asking us to lean into compassion, intuition, and spiritual growth while releasing the need for perfectionism and over analysis. And then the eclipses activating the Libra Pisces or the Aries Libra axis one last time, and then the Pisces Virgo axis. So overall, a lot is happening in 2025, but what I want to really bring home is it's more so giving us a sneak peek of the energies into 2026. And I say this because we have some very significant planetary movement happening in the sky, but the new of 2025 will be met with the old of 2024. So there's going to be like this back and forth, kind of like ping pong effect happening with the planets that we will be diving into today and really breaking down into more of a granular and digestible content just because of the retrogrades. So what we'll see with the new will be reconfirmed with the old. And overall, with 2025, this is going to be a year to embrace change with curiosity, lead with authenticity, and anchor into our spiritual growth and tangible actions. So, there's going to be a big uptick in energy, and I'm going to dive right in. So, what we'll be covering in this year's 2025 astrological predictions is we're going to start with the nodes of fate, changing signs. So the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. We're going to talk about the four eclipses of 2025 and how they correlate with the nodes. Then we'll talk about the personal planets in retrograde. And then we're going to do a 5-part breakdown of the outer planets, changing signs and elements. So we'll talk about Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And then we'll wrap up with the main energies of 2025 and we'll bring it all together. So to start off, we have the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. So 2025 is going to start with a shift into the nodes of fate. And the nodes are going to be entering into Pisces, the North Node into Pisces, and the South Node is going to be entering into Virgo. So this transit took place, took place on January 12th of 2025 and will extend into July 17th of 2027. So we will have the North Node in Pisces. That shift happened on January 12th, 2025, and the South Node in Virgo, and it will remain on this axis until July 17th of 2027. So when we think about this, we can expect that our soul's lessons and directions are shifting, and we're really going to be guided to embrace the trusting and flowing energies of Pisces. So this is very much a time to let go a little bit more of what we've been becoming overly attached to. And this is very much going to change the overall flavors of our lives. Considering we had the North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra for the past 2.5 years. So let's talk about what the nodes of fate are. The nodes of fate are tied to the moon's ecliptic cycle, which also influences the energy of the eclipses every year. The themes of the North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo are going to really start to unfold in 2025 and extend into 2027. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the nodes and how they tie into the eclipses. So when we talk about the nodes, the North Node represents the direction we're meant to grow towards. And some call it our soul's purpose or the qualities we need to develop. So when we think about the South Node represents the traits, behaviors, or habits that we've already mastered, but may need to release in order to move forward and essentially move away from. So this is often where we can feel comfortable, but where we may be held back from growth. And then when we tie in the eclipses happen when the sun, the moon, and the earth align in such a way that the sun or the moon is blocked either by a lunar or solar eclipse. And these alignments happen near the nodes, which we just discussed, the north and the south node, specifically when the sun and the moon are close to those north and south nodes. So a solar eclipse happens near the new moon, and the new moon brings forth very big changes that are significantly more intense and potent than a natural new moon or like a regular new moon. So solar eclipses are amplified. All of the eclipses are amplified, and this is giving us a cosmic reset. Now, when we think of a lunar eclipse, this happens during the time of the full moon and brings endings, revelations, culminations, and where things come to a head and can be released. Lunar eclipses are much more potent than your standard full moon and can be felt for up to 6 months after that exact lunar cycle, both the solar and lunar eclipses. So when we think about, diving into it a little bit more, the solar eclipse happens when the moon comes directly between the earth and the sun. So during this alignment, the moon blocks out the sun's light, casting a shadow on the earth. And this makes the sun appear partially or fully covered, depending on the type of eclipse. And then the lunar eclipse happens when the earth comes directly between the sun and the moon. And this is when the earth casts a shadow onto the moon, causing it to darken or take on a reddish hue. So we can think of them like the blood moons that we see in the sky at times. So in short, the solar eclipse blocks the sun's light from the earth. The lunar eclipse, the earth blocks the sun's light from the moon. And both types of eclipses occur when the sun and the moon and the earth are in a straight line. And they happen around different points of the moon's orbit around the earth. So a little science for you there, but I always like to kind of dive into the hows and whys. And when we think about the correlation of the eclipses happening in this cycle, this is always going to be tied to the nodes. And when the eclipses occur near the north node, it can highlight areas where we're being pushed to grow and move toward new experiences or goals. So when eclipses take place near the south node, this brings up things we need to let go, past habits, fears, or situations that are no longer serving us. So they're triggering events that really push us towards the north node destiny or the south node release. And will reveal what we need to either adopt or let go of. So when thinking about the nodes and Pisces and Virgo this year, this is going to signify spiritual and emotional growth. The North Node in Pisces is going to emphasize spiritual awakenings and a significant cultivation of intuition. This cycle is going to encourage individuals to really embrace the unknown and very much like trust their inner guidance. Like look within and create a deeper connection to a higher and more compassionate purpose. But that's not going to come from the external, it's going to come from the internal. And ways to really be able to access this potential of the North Node in Pisces is really letting go of control. So this is going to be a period that's really going to invite us to release that essence of perfectionism, very rigid structures, and overanalyzing things, and very much encourage us to trust, surrender, and accept um, kind of like the mysteries in life. And I laugh because I have my North Node in Virgo, which very much falls into perfectionism paralysis at times. So this is going to be a very interesting cycle for me. And this shift is all about like realigning our focus of the small details into the bigger picture, and very much allowing space for creativity, imagination, and spiritual healing. So when we think about Pisces, Pisces very much governs emotional and spiritual healing. It inspires individuals to very much align ourselves with more universal truths and let go of limitations. So we have this year now the South Node in Virgo. So South Node in Virgo is asking us to kind of let go and release that perfectionism and inner critic. Some of With Virgo energy, it can have a very vicious self-talk if one feels like they're not stepping up to potential unmanageable expectations of themselves. So looking at the South Node in Virgo themes, South Node in Virgo is asking us to very much move away from the need for perfectionism, excessive control, and constant self-criticism. It's a call to release overthinking and instead very much cultivate self-compassion and trust in the flow of life. There is going to be a call for balance of practicality because we're not going to get rid of the practical nature of Virgo, but very much try to more have a balance between the practicality and intuition. So I don't know where, I think I read this somewhere, but I've always talked about the Pisces Virgo axis. Um, as being the practical mystic with that practical Virgo energy and that mystic and kind of magical Piscean energy. And that's very much going to step up to the plate during this nodal change. So that balance, this is, while we have those Virgo values of being of service to others, very much taking our health and daily routines into and making them very important to us, the South Node in Virgo is going to suggest that over focusing on practicality and perfectionism isn't always so necessary and doesn't always need to be so wound wound so tight. Instead, we can really step into more of an intuitive and creative space, finding solutions that are going to more so guide us down a path of higher wisdom that ultimately, when we have that release and we trust in the process, can be more effective. Um, this can look like embracing more holistic approaches and very much letting go of the rigid and kind of, unwavering routines and obsessive attention to detail that can really highlight the lower energy octaves of Virgo, and more so really lean into this period that invites embracing flexibility, self-care, and holistic well-being. So, if we think about some big themes during this time, it's going to be the releasing of over analytical tendencies. So, there's going to be a collective shift away from the excessive focus on detail and perfectionism, as that South Node is in Virgo, which is going to often lead to stress and burnout and just it can be very much that perfectionism paralysis. And instead, with the North Node being in Pisces, encourage a more fluid and compassionate approach to life. There can be themes of spiritual awakening during this time. So this is going to very much promote a deeper connection to faith, intuition, and more of a universal truth, trusting in something greater than our individual selves and seeking the meaning behind like what our big purpose is beyond what the material pursuit is. And I know we're very much directed into the pursuit of our material items, what we have, what we very much do on a day-to-day basis, but we're being called into a bigger theme during this time. And then the balance between service and self-care. Virgo is such a service-oriented type of an energy, a sign, and it shows up in ways that are detailed, that are unpaceable by most, on a day-to-day rhythm, and can very much get us caught up in those details. But more so, we're being called to incorporate a growing importance of balance with self-care and making sure that we are nurturing ourselves while remaining like mindful of the collective. Like we're not going to stop showing up, we're not going to stop being of service, but also be of service to ourselves and make ourselves a very big priority during this time as well. So overall, what we can expect is a focus on spiritual growth, creativity, and intuition, letting go of that perfectionism, control, and rigid routines, finding a deeper emphasis on emotional and spiritual healing, and just getting more fluid and like being more like the water running down the stream and trickling over the rocks versus the getting halted by the dam. And also blending the practicality with compassion and more of a higher wisdom while increasing our sense of trust and interconnectedness of us with the universe or however we seek universe. So personal and collective growth is going to be very big during this time, and this shift will likely guide us towards more compassionate approaches, holistic approaches, and this is going to be both within our outer, but a lot more within our inner worlds. So let's talk about now how these four eclipses are going to align with the nodes of faith. So the eclipses coincide with the North Node and the South Node, like we just discussed. So we'll be looking at the overall themes and energies we're working with throughout these degree points. And in addition to talking about the overall energy of the eclipses, I'm also going to be weaving in and discussing what's called a mode in each of these signs. So I want to quickly explain what that means so you have a sense of what I'm talking about when I refer to the modes. So in astrology, a mode or a modality describes how a zodiac sign approaches life and handles energies. So there are three modes or modalities that we discuss, and those are cardinal, fixed, and mutable modes. So when we talk about the cardinal modes, these are referring to the signs of Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Now, when we think about these signs, these are the starter signs. So these signs, you can think about it in a way, they start the seasons. So when we think about Aries energy, Aries starts the spring season. Cancer energy starts the summer season. Libra energy start the fall. Capricorn winter. So these energies and these signs are big on initiating and bringing in fresh energy. Then when we talk about the fixed signs, this is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Fixed signs are they're more steady, they're determined, and they're great at seeing things through. They're very grounded and determined and steadfast, but they, just like their name, fixed, can be unwilling to waver. And then we have the mutable signs. Mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And these are the shifters. These signs are very flexible and they're great at adapting and changing. So if we think about this, cardinal signs kick off the energy. Fixed signs keep it steady and moving, and the mutable signs adjust as needed. So with the four eclipses in 2025, this is going to be all about growths and new beginnings. So with the Virgo focusing on getting practical and organized with our health, work, and daily life, Aries energy pushing us to take bold steps in our personal identity and leadership. It's a time of transformation. And then with the Pisces energies, this is going to help us release emotional baggage and encourage us to let go of old patterns and embrace change with more of an intuitive flow. So we have four eclipses this year, and these are very powerful cosmic events that are going to highlight major shifts and endings along with new beginnings. So in 2025, there will be four significant eclipses, two solar eclipses, two lunar eclipses that are occurring in key zodiac signs. And I'm going to just go down the dates real quick and then we'll dive in. So we have on March 14th, 2025, we're going to have the Virgo lunar eclipse at 24 degrees. And then on March 29th, 2025, we're going to have our final Aries solar eclipse at 9 degrees. Then on September 7th, 2025, we'll have our Pisces lunar eclipse at 15 degrees. And then on September 21st, 2025, we'll have the Virgo solar eclipse at 29 degrees. So let's break these down. Starting in March, so March 14th, 2025, we start with the Virgo lunar eclipse at 24 degrees of Virgo. So, from an elemental standpoint, Virgo is an earth sign. From a modes standpoint, Virgo is a mutable sign. So, this lunar eclipse in Virgo is going to be emphasizing more practical, grounded changes, especially related to our health, routines, how we're of service to others. And the earth element in this brings a focus on tangible results, while the fact that it's mutable is going to highlight adaptability and the need for some flexibility around this. So, this eclipse is going to encourage somewhat of an emotional release and adjustment in our daily habits and work-life balance. It's going to be a time to make changes that are going to bring more of like a practical benefit, but is going to require a more open and adaptive and changeable approach to these shifts. And then we have on March 29th, we have the Aries solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries. So Aries is a fire sign. Aries, from a modality standpoint, Aries is a cardinal sign. It gets things started. So the Aries solar eclipse is going to provide a very fiery and bold, pioneering energy. And with it being the element of fire is going to bring a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and the desire for action and like, let's jump, let's go. Because it's a cardinal sign, and cardinal modes signify the start of a new cycle and initiatives. Aries is the first to jump, it is fearless, and this eclipse is going to represent a powerful moment for new beginnings, especially in our personal goals, our identity, as well as how we flex our assertiveness. So this is going to be a dynamic time. It's going to be forward moving energy that really encourages us to take risks, take charge of our future, and really, really welcome and kind of like usher in the start of something new and fresh, and really lean into our leadership abilities and to not shy away from them. Then on September 7th, 2025, we have the Pisces lunar eclipse at 15 degrees of Pisces. So Pisces is water energy. It is I like to call it the ocean of emotion. Pisces is a mutable sign. So this Pisces lunar eclipse is going to bring a, a significant feeling of emotion, intuition, spiritual atonement, and the modes with it being mutable is very much going to suggest fluidity, change. So this Pisces lunar eclipse could very much prompt us to release illusion, escape old emotional patterns, and somewhat like usher in the experience of more of a deep emotional revelation. So spiritual clarity is going to be very significant during this time. Emotional release. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac wheel and the ultimate letting go and release. We might be encouraged to move away from self-deception and overly idealistic perceptions. It might also highlight the need for healing, compassion, while also making sure that with all of this energy, because it's potent, it's very much intense, that we're making sure that we are not falling accustomed to some of the lower energy octaves of Pisces, which can look like escapism and wanting to just escape reality through all sorts of tactics and ways. Um, And then on September 21st, 2025, we have the Virgo solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Virgo. So Virgo is an earth sign. It is a mutable sign. And this is going to be our second Virgo eclipse of the year and continuing those earth themes. So this is going to be focusing more on practicality, health, work and routine, as that is the overarching theme of Virgo energy. And with it being mutable, we've talked about Virgo encourages adaptability. So this eclipse is going to very much call for the adjustment of new beginnings, as this is a solar eclipse now in the areas that require organization, improvements, our daily rhythms and routine, and our health. So this could emphasize kind of like getting our life cleaned up a little bit and that in areas of life that are not servicing us, not bringing value. And this is going to be centered typically predominantly around our daily work and wellness. So this Virgo Earth energy is really going to promote tangible, grounded progress and processes, while the mutable aspect of it is going to really encourage flexibility and openness around this time to change, to make changes that are going to overall improve our well-being and also our productivity. Because let's face it, it is about our day-to-day rhythms. So when we think about a summary of the eclipses, even from just like an elemental and mode standpoint, the elements, we're going to be working with Earth. So we have the two eclipses in Virgo, the lunar and the solar, bringing us practicality, stability, and grounded changes, focusing on our health, our routines, our work, how we're of service. And then we have a fire eclipse, which is the Aries solar eclipse, bringing forth very bold action, courage, initiative, leadership qualities, and new beginnings. And then we have the Pisces lunar eclipse, which focuses on the element of water, which is healing, spiritual insight, intuition, emotional clarity. So we will be working with those elements throughout 2025. And the modes that are going to be focused and present for this 2025 eclipse are going to be the cardinals, which is the one eclipse in Aries, which is the solar eclipse. So as we said, new beginnings, leaderships, and initiatives, and then the mutable energies, which we have those other three eclipses, which are Virgo lunar eclipse, Pisces lunar eclipse, and then the Virgo solar eclipse, which is bringing us into adaptability, change, flexibility, and letting go of what no longer serves. So action, change, grounded, grounded practicality and emotional clarity, as well as boldness and flexibility are the big energies. And this is a very powerful blend. Um, and one that we'll be seeing showing up in different ways for all of us individually. And the way that we can really determine how this is going to show up in our life is by looking at where we have those degree points in our personal birth chart and then locating which house they're in to see what area of life is going to be highlighted during the time of these eclipses. But now I'd like to shift to the personal planets in their retrogrades. So we're going to begin by taking a look at the planetary energies of the year, including the retrograde points. And this is going to really look at where there's going to be a slowdown in order to move forward. So we have three Mercury retrogrades this year, one Venus and one Mars retrograde. Um, so the three Mercury retrogrades are in fire and water signs. Venus retrograde is going to be in Aries and Pisces, so that's fire and water. And then the Mars retrograde is going to be in Leo, and that is a fire sign. And then re-entering into Cancer, which is a water sign. So big, big energies here. So in 2025, Mercury will be retrograde 3 times, as it typically does every year. Like this is common. And these retrograde periods are times when Mercury appears to be moving backwards in the sky from a degree point. And so when we think about the Mercury retrogrades in 2025, the focus is going to be on themes of self-expression, reflection, and relationships as they're occurring in fire and water signs and transiting into air and earth energies. So, breaking down the overarching themes of the Mercury retrogrades, we have our first Mercury retrograde on March 15th, and that goes until April 7th. So, March 15th, we start our first Mercury retrograde of 2025 at 9 degrees of Aries, and then we will go retrograde until 26 degrees of Pisces. So during the time of this Mercury retrograde, this is going to be extending from March 14th to April 7th, going from Aries back into Pisces. This is going to be a theme asking us to balance our assertiveness, our leadership, our initiation energies with more empathy, compassion, and letting things go with the flow. So this retrograde is going to encourage a shift from bold, impulsive actions of Aries to introspective and emotional depth of Pisces. And this is going to be a time to reevaluate how we express ourselves and connect emotionally with others. So the Mercury retrograde is going to be moving from the fire sign of Aries into the water sign of Pisces, bringing a shift in those energetic themes. And Mercury is slowing down and retracting its steps between these very two different signs. So here is the breakdown of them. We have from March 14th to March 28th, Mercury will be retrograding back in the sign of Aries. So Aries themes are action, independence, impulsiveness, and bold communication. So with the retrograde in the sign of Aries during this time, this phase is going to ask us to live in those retrograde revisit situations where we may have acted a little too quickly or said things potentially without considering the full impact, because as we know, Mercury represents communication and how we ingest information and present it. So this is going to be a time to reflect on how we've asserted ourselves in the area of communications of what we've desired. There can be some misunderstandings that arise in the way we take initiative during this time, but the opportunity that we have during this time, and again, this is between March 14th to March 28th, is to rethink how we approach how we assert ourselves, how we approach potential conflict that might arise, or our independence. We could be revisiting old ideas or projects that maybe need a little refresher and to start with a more strategic plan. But then on March 29th to April 7th, Mercury will be re-entering into Pisces for the remainder of its retrograde period. And these are going to be themes of Pisces, which are intuition, creativity, our emotions, as well as escapism. So we can expect during this time when Mercury dips back into Pisces for the energy to soften, to become less direct, and to become more reflective. And this can be a phase that can feel a little bit more dreamy, but not as clear. Um, with a focus on emotional processing, our imagination, our dream state, very much like subconscious patterns that we want to make sure that we're bringing attention to. So with Mercury being about communication, with Mercury being retrograde, there can be miscommunications that might arise from maybe unclear emotional boundaries, or over idealistic thinking. But the opportunity here, because I always feel like with Mercury retrograde, it's more of a time of opportunity versus, you know, kind of like Mercury retrograde gets such a bad name. And it's like, I look at it as more of like an opportunistic time to very much dive into, with the Pisces energy, more creative or spiritual projects that maybe need revisiting, a reflection on how we how we look at our emotions, how we recognize our intuitional and intuitive insights, and things that might have surfaced previously that need a little bit more fine tuning. So the key takeaways from the Mercury retrograde going from Aries to Pisces: it's going to be shifting from action-oriented Aries to more reflection-based Pisces. And this retrograde begins with that fire Aries energy, encouraging us to assess actions and our words, then transiting into Pisces, which is asking us to reflect on our emotional or spiritual motivations, looking at emotional boundaries and making sure that we're like very much taking care of ourselves. Um, this can also, there can be like a push and pull, like kind of like a tug of war between the Aries desire for directness and the Pisces tendency for subtleties and vagueness. So clarity and the subconscious can really come up into play during this time. And we're also being asked to, look at what we need to let go of. Looking at how our emotional patterns are being highlighted once Mercury gets into Pisces, that could very much stem from impulsive actions that we're taking during the Aries phase. Um, so great things to think of during this time is pause, the power of pause, and making sure that we're double checking like what's coming out of our mouths. In Aries, we can avoid rushing into decisions. In Pisces, we can ensure that there's clarity to prevent maybe some confusion or misunderstandings. And we can also lean into that balance between intuition and logic. So the Aries energy wants to really push us to act, but Pisces is reminding us to pause and like look at what's going on inside. Like, do a check-in and trust what your intuition, your instincts, all of that is telling you. And really focus on unfinished business. So both of these signs, Aries and Pisces, are urging us to revisit things that we've started, maybe from a project standpoint, a relationship, or ideas that we had, and to look at them and see if there's a need for fine-tuning. And then our second retrograde of the year is taking place on July 17th to August 11th.
And this is when Mercury is retrograding from 15 degrees of Leo to 4 degrees of Leo. So it stays in the sign of Leo. So this is fire energy. And with Mercury in retrograde, we're being asked to look at these Leo energies and do some reassessing or revisiting or redirecting of those Leo energies, which are centered around creativity. So Leo rules our self-expression, our creative endeavors. It also represents who we are and how we know ourselves without needing external validation. There is an energy of children or childlike wonder with the Leo energies. So during this retrograde, we might be called to revisit old creative projects or reassess how we present ourselves to the world. There is an opportunity to refine our creative work or maybe rediscover a passion that maybe went to the back burner. Um, Leo is a sign of confidence. It's ruled by the sun. It's a leader. It's the lion or lioness. But in Mercury retrograde, there may be a prompt for us to re-question our leadership style and how we seek recognition, making sure that, we are seeing ourselves and recognizing ourselves from a self-knowingness versus seeking it from external sources. And so there's an opportunity here to really reflect on how we assert our authority and whether it aligns with our true values. There can be relationship dynamics. Leo governs the heart. It loves romance. It's very fiery. And Leo kind of represents that kind of like honeymoon phase of, relationship when it's just like it's fiery, it's exciting, it's new. So with a Mercury retrograde in Leo, this could bring up communication realignments within relationships, particularly around like being seen in relationships, what we value in relationships, and how we're appreciated. So we can look at how we can heal and potentially clarify expectations within relationship. And this can be relationship which is platonic as well. Um, but when we talk about Leo energy, there is the word ego that comes up. And I always like to preface that ego is not a bad thing. It is who we are and our leadership styles. It is our personality. Ego is very much tied to our sun sign. The sun rules Leo, and Leo energy can amplify the term of ego. And during a retrograde, there's a potential for maybe like a misstep of how we portray ourselves. So the opportunity here is to reflect on whether our self-image is authentic or if adjustments are needed to align with our inner self. Because remember, Leo is the constitution and knowingness of who we are from an inner standpoint, not an external. And then there can be a reconnection with joy. So Leo is playful and it's fun and it loves to be in that space. And this retrograde can really encourage us to revisit hobbies or activities that bring up forth that spark of joy and excitement and give us an opportunity to really assess how we prioritize joy and make time for what lights us up. But let's not forget this is a retrograde, so the potentials during this time, if we're not looking at this from an opportunity standpoint and where we can fall into some, getting stuck in the mud, is potential miscommunication around our personal pride and maybe seeking attention, or attention seeking behaviors from external sources. It can be easy to feel maybe overlooked or misinterpreted during this period if we are seeking that external validation, but there's opportunity for conversation. There could be technological like issues with creative adventures or things that we want to do. Mercury is all about our technology. So there could be a delay in creative projects or, information going out to the public during this time centered around our creative endeavors. And then there could be um, an overconfidence and an overexertion and impulse driven by some of those lower octave energies of the ego rather than things that are more carefully and constructively thought out. So, just some things to be aware of and to recognize and pivot when we see them rising up. And then our third Mercury retrograde is going to be from November 10th to November 30th at going from 6 degrees of Sagittarius to 20 degrees of Scorpio. So this Mercury retrograde is going from the fiery sign of Sagittarius to the watery sign of Scorpio. So during this time, there can be, there's going to be a dynamic blend here of themes that are focused on truth seeking, deep introspect, and transforming communication around that. So, the first part of this retrograde, we have the Sagittarius phase. We are going to have from November 9th to November 20th, Mercury retrograding back in the sign of Sagittarius with themes of seeking out truth, exploration, big beliefs, and big picture thinking. This is very much a philosophical view on things. This is looking at things from more of an expansive lens. Sagittarius also represents long-term travel or exploration. This can be exploration of the mind and our thoughts, as that's what Mercury represents. So we can expect during the Sagittarius portion of this retrograde to revisit or maybe question our philosophies or long-term plans and how we communicate our ideas. Miscommunications can arise as we are in a Mercury retrograde in areas related to travel, higher education, or shared beliefs. There can be an overestimating or overpromising aspect to this time that could lead to challenges. So make sure that we're being realistic with what we're committing to. But the opportunity here is to reassess our goals and whether they're aligned with our deep values, to maybe reflect on some of our personal truths and if those are still current and how we communicate those to others. And then we move into the Scorpio phase. So the Scorpio phase is going to be from November 21st to November 30th. And these are going to be themes of emotional depth, transformation, secrets coming to the surface, and and power dynamics. So what can we expect during the Mercury retrograde during the Scorpio portion? When it dips into Scorpio, the energy is going to become more internal, introspective, intense. Scorpio is very intense. So there can be conversations and thoughts about what we might center our attention on in the areas of possibly hidden truths or truths that we might not have allowed ourselves to see. Maybe unresolved emotional issues, possibly taboo topics. There can be misunderstandings around like information maybe that was withheld or maybe like cryptic communications, things along the lines of that, but it's very much like what's going on the inside and the intense emotion around it and communicating it. So the opportunity here is to do more of a deep dive into emotional healing and uncover hidden motivations and revelations that may be more internal. It could be external, but it could be more internal, of things that we might not have allowed ourselves to see and experience. There could be also a revisit of old wounds or power struggles, really calling for resolution and closure during this time. So, you know, this is, this is intense. This is deep. Um, this is a revisiting of the past. So when we think about how we can approach this, um, Sagittarius, the Sagittarius piece of this can be idealism. Scorpio can be our internal emotions and what we've maybe kept secret from ourselves. Um, and this can create maybe a blurred truth of what's real and what's been over exaggerated. There can be travel or learning delays during this time as Sagittarius really highlights travel and higher education. So these areas may face a pause or a setback or just like a delay. And then emotional intensity. Scorpio, and it is so intense and so internally emotional. Like it's like that picture of the glacier where you see a little bit coming out of the water, but then below the water surface is like this insane boulder. And with the Scorpio energy, it's like the boulder of emotion. It can amplify emotional interactions, leading to power struggles or potentially a resurfacing of old wounds. So what we want to focus on during this retrograde and navigate is pausing before we speak and avoiding being overly blunt. Sagittarius can, on a lower energy octave, have foot in the mouth syndrome, um, or being too secretive and striving for a balance between clarity and our communication around that. We can reflect on beliefs and use this time to reassess our big picture views and letting go of outdated perspectives. We can embrace emotional depth as well during this time and invite ourselves to explore our shadow side with the Scorpio energy. It's, you know, we're really asked to not shy away from doing the inner work during this time and to really review and realign. So this is going to be a great time to revisit financial or contractual matters as Scorpio um, focuses on shared resources between another. And this can look like investments as well. So this is going to be a big time to really lean into all of that. But, you know, ultimately, Mercury retrograde is going to be asking us to expand our philosophical energies of Sagittarius to the introspective transformation and depth of Scorpio. So, the overall themes of 2025, when thinking about a Mercury retrograde, is communication or maybe miscommunication, potential travel delays, double checking things and allowing extra time, technology and potential glitches during the time of Mercury retrogrades with our electronic devices. So making sure that things are backed up, and the reflection, review, reconnecting, and rethinking our plans. So we're going to be revisiting connections to self and others. We're going to be balancing our passions with introspect, and we're going to be transforming relationships through communication and understanding. So, again, looking at these degree points and where they fall on your chart and looking at what house they fall into is going to be the area of life that is going to be highlighted during the time of these Mercury retrogrades. And now we're moving to Venus retrograde. So Venus retrograde is taking place from March 2nd to April 12th. And Venus retrograde, I'm sorry about that. Venus retrograde taking place from March 2nd to April 12th. So when we have a Venus retrograde, this is going to be beginning at 10 degrees of Aries and moving back to 12 degrees of Pisces. So from March 2nd to March 27th, Venus will be retrograding through Aries during this time and highlighting the themes of personal identity, self-expression and relationship, and how we assert ourselves and our desires. Aries is the energy of bold, passionate assertiveness. And during this time, this phase of the retrograde might very much prompt us to reflect on how to confidently approach things like our personal values, our creativity, as well as love. So we might be revisiting, we're in a retrograde, so revisiting old patterns in relationship and reassessing the past patterns of relationship. Challenges may occur at this time that arise around impulsiveness or prioritizing self over partnership, as Aries is the self, Venus is related to the we factor partnership. So really looking at that and looking if there's any pain points that arise during this time. Then from March 27th from April to April 12th, Venus will be retrograding back in the sign of Pisces. So this is going to be moving back to 24 degrees of Pisces until it goes direct. So the key themes during this time, March 27th to April 12th, when Venus is retrograding into Pisces, there's going to be a shift in our focus to more of an introspect, emotional healing, and spiritual connection in the area of love. So Pisces energy is intuitive and dreamy and encourages during a retrograde reevaluation of our ideas of relationship and creative project. So this can be a time to reflect on whether our expectations are aligned with our reality. Um, we can be faced with unresolved emotional wounds or old dreams that might resurface for closure or revision. And the overall theme of this Venus retrograde will be the transition between Aries and Pisces. So this is going to look at where we need to put in that retrograde energy and acknowledgement with our fiery, independent energy, Aries energy, but which is really asking us and encouraging us to look at things from a bold reassessment and then to soften a little bit in the reflective and compassionate spiritual ocean of emotion in the Pisces energy. And this transition is going to mark a shift from outward confidence to seeking out more inward emotional clarity. So the focus during this time is going to be relationships, and the dynamic of if they are aligned with our truth and values. There's going to be a focus on creativity, rethinking creative endeavors and our inspirations. There's going to be a focus on finances. I mean, Venus is tied to our personal finances as well, as it is the planetary ruler of not only Libra, but also Taurus. So this is going to be examining how we spend and value our resources, and then also spiritual growth. And this is going to be especially highlighted during the Pisces phase. So there could be a seeking for closure and healing during this time and letting go. So now we're going to move to the Mars retrograde. So, excuse me, the Mars retrograde in 2025 will occur from January 1st until February 24th. And this will begin at 1 degree of Leo and goes back to 17 degrees of Cancer. So we only have one Mars retrograde in 2025, and these are going to be focusing on themes of energy, drive, and action, but also of self-care and slowing down and very much like our home environment. So from January 1st until January 6th, Mars is that is the time that Mars is in Leo. starting at 1 degree and retrograding back to 0. So in the Leo themes, this is going to be a reevaluation of creative ambition. So this is going to be a time to revisit creative projects, as that is very much Leo energy, or, how we express ourselves, and make sure that our actions are aligned with our authentic self-expression. There can be challenges possibly during this time, and kind of some of those lower energy octaves of the Leo expression, which can be frustration in seeking attention, validation, or leadership recognition, and giving us the opportunity though to reflect on whether our drive is for recognition-based purposes, or if it's rooted in like more like genuine knowingness of who we are versus that external validation. There can also be tension or conflicts that might arise around our pride and inflated egos. That is the lower octave energy of Leo. This is a period to potentially learn about graceful humility and manage interpersonal conflicts with grace. But there can also be an energy of fluctuation in motivation and maybe feeling less inspired or energized to take bold actions because the Mars retrograde, it's ruled by Aries. It wants to go fast. It wants to get going on things. But with the retrograde, it's very much being asked to slow down. So where we may have had bold action and access to that energy, we can very much like take our foot off the gas a little bit and put more of our focus on refining our strategies instead of initiating new things. So it's a fine-tuning energy. And then from January 6th to February 24th, 2025, this is when Mars retrogrades back into Cancer. So Cancer energy, there's going to be a very big theme of emotional reassessment of our goals. So Mars it's like goal driven, it's motivation. So there can be a shift in that motivation to focus more on home and on family, our emotional security, and very much reflect on whether our goals nurture our emotional needs or if there's a disconnect. Um, Conflicts could arise from feeling potentially protective around loved ones and a defensiveness around those who are family, who we consider family, who are in the nest. Cancer is a mother hen, big mama energy. And there can be opportunities to practice setting clear boundaries um, with loved ones or with protecting loved ones that might not require an over defensiveness. Um, Again, we're slowing down and we're living in the Rees with Mars, excuse me. So there can be an emotional acknowledgement of things and emotions that may have felt suppressed or maybe unresolved, stemmed around family issues that could be surfacing during this time. So, this is again an opportunity to process those emotions constructively versus reacting impulsively, which is very much that Mars energy. We're really being given a lot of opportunities here. And then the focus on nurturing and healing ourselves. So, there can be like a slowdown in our physical, like energy battery during this time, which is going to give us, again, an opportunity to step into more restorative activities. Like, if Mars is a moving energy, it is chi. And this could very much call for us to do less intense physical exertive activities, maybe focusing more on, you know, deep stretching, yoga, um, a slowdown of our intense physical exertion, maybe walking versus running. But there is going to be a focus on how we slow down that is ultimately going to give us the opportunity to nurture. So when we think about combining Leo and Cancer energies for this Mars retrograde, this is going to blend a sense of identity versus emotion. So a shift between the self-expressive, self-identifying, driven, reflective energy of a Mars retrograde in Leo to the emotionally rooted, more introspective, self-healing call to in the Cancer energies. This can also look like, potential balance between our prideful tendencies with Leo, with emotional vulnerability and learning healthier ways to assert ourselves. There can be an opportunity for energy management here and really like embracing and embodying a slower pace during this time. I mean, don't worry, we're gonna be in an uptick again, but during this time, especially for those, energy and big energy seekers, this is a time to really allow the slowdown with a focus on refining goals and healing versus like having to always initiate bold actions. So, focusing on self-care and our emotional well-being is very much like homework during this time. Revisiting unresolved issues with home or loved ones can surface. And also, I mean, I would I would suggest, if possible, I mean, we have to live our lives, but potentially pausing on starting new projects or making big drastic changes and maybe sit in more of a space of prioritizing planning and more of an introspective time. Um, but this represents a time of just energy acknowledgement. Retrogrades can manifest in delays of moving forward because of the Mars energy, which can cause frustration and challenges around motivation, decision making, and conflict resolution. Um, so give yourself some grace during this time. Mars is not comfortable in Cancer energy because it moves side to side, and Mars very much wants to charge forward. So give yourself some grace and understand we're in a moment. And now we're going to be shifting gears to the outer planets, changing signs and elements. So, 2025, most of the outer planets are going to be shifting from Earth and water signs, the element of earth and water signs, to the element of air and fire signs, with the exception of Jupiter going into Cancer, which is a water sign. So this is marking a significant shift in the collective energy and focus. And this is huge. I mean, this is very much going to change the energy of our entire world. So I'm gonna give you a quick summary of all of the outer planets, and then we're going to do a deep dive. So we have Jupiter moving from the air sign of Gemini into the water sign of Cancer in 2025. And this is going to be an energy that shifts from the Gemini energies of intellectual focus, communication, expansive learning and connections and curiosity into the nurturing and more emotionally driven energy that is really putting an emphasis on home, family, the mother, our root system, our lineage, how we nurture others, how we need to nurture ourselves, as well as our personal security, which is emphasizing the Cancer themes. Then we have Saturn, which is moving from the water sign of Pisces into the fire sign of Aries. And this period is signaling disciplined action and leadership with a focus on personal initiative as well as transformation. Then we have Uranus. Uranus is that quick and sudden change, that electric energy moving from the earth sign of Taurus into the air sign of Gemini. And this shift is going to focus from transforming our like material values, our sense of safety, security, and stability, as well as our personal finances and personal possessions, which are all inclusive of the Taurus energy, to more of a revolutionizing, which is Uranus energy, a revolutionizing energy around communication, information, and technology, which is Gemini. So this change is going to really inspire a breakthrough of how we think, how we learn, how we connect with others, the information that we're taking in, how we're articulating it. This is going to be like, this can be very lightning speed energy and in the area of information and communication, and focus on the innovations around education, the media, as well as technology. So then we have Neptune that is going to shift out of Pisces, which is a water sign, into Aries, which is a fire sign. I'd like to note that Neptune is the planetary ruler of Pisces, so it was very comfortable in Pisces during this time. And we'll be shifting more into that initiating energy. So in 2025, moving from an energy of emotional depth, spirituality, and creativity into more bold, initiating, action-oriented energies. And this transition is really going to be encouraging us to act on our dreams and our ideals with a sense of passion, a sense of like leadership over our personal lives, and almost like a sense of urgency as well. Like, let's get this moving. And then finally, wrapping up, we have Pluto moving from Capricorn back in late 2024 and making now its full journey with no interruptions into the sign of Aquarius, which is an air energy. So this is going to be ushering in transformative shifts in the area of technology, community, societal structures, like the vast and expansive world of technology, the internet, what is being creative right now, our collective consciousness. And this is very much encouraging innovation, transformation, and a breakdown to rebuild in a very progressive way. So these shifts are really representing a move from more like that grounded and emotional depth, which we have been experiencing, to more of a focus on intellect, communication, action, and suggesting a collective evolution towards more dynamic and forward-thinking energy. So this is a time to embrace um, more of like innovation and taking bold steps forward, because if not, acceptance comes resistance, and that adds a lot of tension in our lives. So we're going to start with Jupiter. Jupiter is leaving Gemini and shifting into the sign of Cancer. So with Jupiter, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It wants us to learn and grow and enjoy life. It sees life as like a glass half full. So we love to see what Jupiter, this beautiful big planet in our solar system, brings forth in the ways of positive change. So Jupiter enters into Cancer on June 10th, 2025. So there's going to be an expansion of the Cancer energies and intentions around the Cancer energies within your natal chart. So look at what house you have 0 to 29 degrees of Cancer in, and this is the area of life you're going to be feeling this Jupiter energy. So this is going to be expanded emotional wisdom. So this is a time for growth, a time for nurturing and connection. Jupiter is very much shining its energy into the Cancer dynamic. So Jupiter is all about growth. It's all about expansion. It's about abundance, and it pushes us to level up. It pushes us to enjoy life embrace things from a big picture standpoint. So this very much matters because when Jupiter enters a new sign, it's going to bring fresh opportunities and a focus on areas to explore and expand. So starting on June 10th, when Jupiter moves into the sign of Cancer, there's going to be an uptick in the Cancer energies, and it's going to stay in the sign of Cancer until June 30th of 2026. So this is an amp up. So what Cancer brings to the table is the nurturer, the protector. It's all about emotional depth and creating a sense of belonging. It's the first water sign in the zodiac, and Cancer very much represents emotional sensitivity and intuition. It represents the home, the family, our lineage, the mother, and deep care for relationships and traditions. So, what Jupiter is going to be adding to this is amplifying these Cancers. And what Jupiter is going to be adding to this is an amplification of Cancer's natural tendencies and very much bringing a surge or an expansive amount of energy into the areas of our lives where Cancer is most activated on our charts, which is the house that Cancer resides in on all of our individual charts. So this is going to be a period of emotional growth. We can expect, personally, a greater focus on emotional security and healing. These are going to be opportunities to strengthen family ties and deepen relationships. There's going to be an intuitive nudge to prioritize self-care and nurturing. And by nudge, I mean Jupiter amplifies anything it touches. So it can be very much like a non-negotiable at this point. So we're going to be learning to trust our emotions and look at them as more of a source of wisdom, and also given the opportunity to let go of old wounds and find emotional balance. We can really be called to create spaces, both physical and emotional, where we can feel safe and more grounded. So we can look at our natal chart, as I said, to where we have 0 to 29 degrees of Cancer. Jupiter will be expanding the energies of that area of our lives. So, when I'm talking about these houses, they all signify different things. So this can show up different for all of us because we're all going to have Cancer in different houses. So if you essentially have it in like the 10th house, it can be a highlight on career, the 4th house, which Cancer naturally rules. This can be changes to growth at home, and so on. So this is a great time to reflect on where we need more comfort and connection in our lives. So that's from more of a personal standpoint. What we can see from more of a collective, global, can be leadership that emphasizes more compassion, care, and emotional intelligence. There can be a renewed focus on family traditions and cultural preservation and how important it is, and why we can't let that just disappear or dissolve with all of the new growth we've been seeing. And also fostering growth in the areas related to building a home, the sanctuary of home, our emotional well-being, and how we care for others and care for ourselves. So we have an opportunity here for a collective emotional healing, finding common ground, and connecting at a deeper level. So there could be a push to nurture the environments and protect what truly matters to us. So asking ourselves, like, what makes me feel safe? How can I nurture myself in relationships more intentionally? And what part of my life is like ready to sprout and grow from more an emotional perspective? And this is going to take us prioritizing our emotional well-being and creating comfort and maybe new rituals and new ways of doing that. This is going to ask us to invest in our home life, whether, it can be home from the physical standpoint, it can be doing something to home, it can be moving to a different home, it can be reconnecting with family members, but really in whole, letting our intuition guide when making these big decisions. And, we can always trust our intuition. as a source to give us the opportunity to grow by nurturing ourselves and the people and places that matter most. So then we're going to shift into Saturn. Saturn is going to be moving between Aries and Pisces. So Saturn, serious beginnings that can start to take shape when Saturn enters into Aries on May 26, 2025. And this is the first time that Saturn is entering into Aries, starting a new synodic cycle since 1996. So Saturn entering into Aries, May 26, 2025. I want to point out that on September 2nd, 2025, it will be retrograding back into Pisces. So again, with the sneak peek. But what we're going to see and experience with Saturn in Aries for this limited time in 2025 is new commitments, new responsibilities and goals that we can discover with Saturn. Saturn is all about responsibilities, discipline, and how we like move forward with ambition and drive. We can discover these during the Saturn transit in Aries, which wants to move forward with things and initiate. But I want to just kind of make note that with this new energy in Aries, there could be some false starts or possible delays because Saturn, during its retrograde period, is going back into Pisces. So we'll talk about that. But I want to focus also, this is exciting. Saturn takes 30 years to go fully around and the astrological wheel. So we're starting a new 30-year cycle that's going to align the Saturn in Aries like full push forward. That's going to happen in 2026. But in 2025, with the retrograde back into Pisces, it's going to be a year to decide what is worth putting our time and energy into and attention forward, and then the opportunity to kind of, reflect and make sure that there's all alignments and until we move forward fully in 2006. So I also want to note the last time Saturn was in Pisces was in 1996. So this is a 30-year cycle that is coming back into our worlds. So it's kind of fun to look back at what was going on in 1996 and what's going to be reigniting now with this Saturn entering into Aries. So this is going to be Saturn entering into Aries May 26, 2025 is going to be forging new beginnings. This is going to be a time for bold commitments and long-term visions. And Saturn is ambition. It is the taskmaster planet. And it lives in the world of discipline, structure, and responsibility. And it challenges and pushes us to mature, grow, and commit to meaningful paths. So Saturn's movement will very much set a tone for a long-term cycle of growth and transformation. Now, with it going into Aries, we've been talking about Aries. Aries brings forth boldness, courage, it's action-oriented, and emphasizes individuality and new beginnings. Aries is the initiator, it's fearless, and in a sense of its energy, it's not afraid to start something new, even if there's not a clear roadmap. So when we think about Saturn going into the sign of Aries, there is a serious, like very determined start for new projects and goals that we want to initiate. But the challenge can come with our test of patience. And if we can ride out having that patience while maintaining determination and drive and ambition, and also building confidence and discipline to take very bold steps. So we can look at this and kind of like envision this Saturn transit into Aries as a very symbolic doorway of opportunity, and we're stepping into it. But let's talk about the dance, the retrograde dance of Saturn retrograding back into Pisces. So 2025, the retrograde motion is going to be Saturn entering into Aries May 26, 2025, but then retrograding back into Pisces on September 2nd, 2025. This is that ping pong. This is that back and forth motion that reflects potential false starts, delays, and the need to review. Retrograde, the re's. So we talk about the opportunities of this. This is going to be refining plans and ensuring our commitments align with our deeper purpose. This is going to be revisiting emotional or spiritual themes brought up during Saturn's time in Pisces that can kind of, Saturn's been going through Pisces for 2.5 years, so it can feel very familiar. So we're going to use this time to strategize and gather strength before moving forward. And the difference in energy of 2025 to 2026 is even though Saturn is entering into Aries, 2025 is going to be a year of experimentation and potentially some premature beginnings and preparations as we have that retrograde. But then in 2026, we're going to have a year of more clarity and determination and forward momentum as Saturn is firmly establishing its presence and its forward movement in the sign of Aries. So, why does all this matter? Matters because this is a new 30-year cycle that we're beginning. Saturn in Aries is marking the beginning of a powerful 30-year synodic cycle that is going to be centered around self-discovery, our achievements, and our growth. Aries, as it's the first sign of the zodiac, is going to bring a pioneering energy that challenges us to take ownership of our past, to like square up and confront our fears and embrace our boldness, our leadership, our ability to jump. And the choices and actions that we're going to be making now are going to very much set the foundation and the path for the next 3 decades. This is huge. This is emphasizing the importance of intentionality and the importance of courage. And this period invites us to take a decisive step forward towards our personal goals, establish our independence, and view challenges as opportunities, and to build resilience for long-lasting success. And all of this, it comes with trust. It comes with trusting the process, which when you don't see the full path forward, is sometimes really hard to do. So we can ask ourselves during this time because, we're going to have a time of retrospect with Pisces, Saturn and Pisces. What bold steps are we ready to take forward? And we can look at things like rebuilding our self-identity and independence. That is Aries energy. And Aries encourages us to reflect on our sense of self and independence. And Saturn is asking us to take a very disciplined and responsible look about that and confront like maybe some potential challenges that we've related to asserting our identity and stepping into more of an authentic version of ourselves. And so this period is going to push us to create a trust muscle and develop like our own personal sovereignty and responsibility to take charge and overcome insecurities tied to like our self-expression and assertiveness. We can also ask ourselves, where do I need to build more confidence and self-discipline? Aries governs action and initiative leadership, and this influence can allow us to overcome obstacles and delays when it comes to pursuing our personal goals. We also may face tests around our willingness to lead, and that is all opportunity to grow and become stronger and more capable. So And, over looking at our long-term goals and what our energy deserves and where our attention deserves to be watered and to be nurtured and to really encourage personal growth. So prioritizing what truly matters, taking disciplined step forward in achieving those goals and ambitions. And again, this could come with confronting challenges that force us to mature and focus on self-development and self-reliance. So we're building resilience, we're learning from setbacks, we're defining what our personal boundaries are, and very much taking ownership of that and honoring our leadership and embracing our independence. So this energy is very much a forward-thinking, solution-based, but also a patience and structured-based energy. So focus on, and let's just be honest, like we're talking about all this, but it can feel like these are lofty goals. I mean, we're talking about a new 30-year cycle. And it can feel overwhelming. So when thinking about like approaching this from a very practical standpoint, so we don't get overwhelmed, we can chop this up a little bit and focus on maybe one or two major goals to avoid burnout during a particular time and looking at maybe what comes up and embracing challenges and looking at them as opportunities to grow and building steadfast systems and habits that support long-term success. And when we're building habits, these are micro these are micro movements into the direction of our purpose and goals. These don't have to be big leaps. These can be micro. And the frequency of creating micro habits creates long-term habits that then become like our daily rhythms. So making sure that we're not taking on too much at once, avoiding impulsive decisions without plans, and also being steadfast, like not giving up when things don't move as fast as we'd like, because we're a society of instant gratification and wanting to see change immediately or very shortly after the initiation point. So, giving like ourselves some opportunities for it to develop and develop at the pace it needs to develop. So, this is a big one. And I myself am going to try to embrace the courage to begin new things, but give myself the patience and the knowingness that in order to build and to know that it's time to build something long lasting, it's not gonna happen overnight. This is a 30-year journey, and it's one step and one foot in front of the other, and a steady pace that's going to be needed to climb this mountain. Yeah, because Saturn, as it's ruled by Capricorn, is represented by the mountain goat. It's what's at the top of the mountain and the journey to get there. So that's going to be Saturn moving into Aries, retrograding back into Pisces, and making its final full journey in 2026. Then we have Uranus entering into Gemini. Now, Uranus, this is also really huge. Uranus takes 84 years-ish to complete a full orbit around the astrological wheel, and it takes 7 years to go through each zodiac sign. So it has been in the sign of Uranus for 7 years now, which is relatively, quick compared to slower moving planets, like Neptune or Pluto. But Uranus entering into the Gemini sign, this is going to take place from July 7th of 2025 to August 3rd of 2032. So Uranus will be in Gemini from July 7th, 2025 to August 3rd, 2032. And when Uranus enters into Gemini, the focus is going to shift. We're going to feel more of an energy around communication, innovation, technology, and the exploration of ideas. So the energy of Uranus is all about revolution, freedom, and shaking things up. And it pushes us to break away from old patterns and embrace something new, which is typically unconventional when considering Uranus energies. And unconventional ways of thinking can really present themselves as Gemini is the way we think, the way we speak. And it's like, it is space, it is out there, it is like a universal wake-up call that is inspiring us to be more innovative and to spark sudden change and reminding us to be more authentic in who we are and as a non-negotiable. So the energy of Uranus, with it being so revolutionary, unpredictable, and forward-thinking, it embodies innovation and almost a liberating aspect when we're thinking about changes that can really break down old structures to make way for new possibilities. Uranus represents an energy that challenges the status quo and inspires individuality. It is not walking with the herd, it is standing alone, it is freedom, and it is unconventional approaches to life. So when we think about Uranus in astrology, to sum it up, innovation and technology, rebellion and revolution, awakening and alignment, individuality and authenticity, as well as sudden disruptions. And Uranus is the planetary ruler of Aquarius, so we can think about those two as similar energies, like they very much are the energy of one another. So Uranus's influence in Gemini, in the sign of Gemini, is going to bring breakthroughs and disruptions related to how we communicate, how we think, how we share information. So we can expect shifts in how we process knowledge. We can, this is going to be like focused around new technologies and innovative ways of connecting with each other and different ways of doing it. So this can really challenge some older traditional beliefs. So Gemini governs thoughts, duality, and exploration. Uranus challenges outdated systems of thoughts, prompting questions and curiosity around established beliefs and the exploration of new ways of thinking. So we can expect increased focus on being open-minded, being adaptable, and leading to shifts in intellectual pursuits and education. There can be a lot of technological advancements and connectivities. So Uranus and Gemini is going to push for advancements in technology, communication tools, the way that we're networking with each other. There could be innovations in AI, VR, the internet, the way we connect globally, and the way we interact and share information becomes or could become more accessible. So that'll be interesting. We could also be breaking free of mental patterns and liberating ourselves from old mental frameworks. As Gemini is very, very adept and very good at exploring new ideas and removing barriers to self-expression. And with Uranus, we can be embracing new ways of thinking and learning. So we can expect more of like an uptick or a surge in curiosity and new perspectives that are going to drive us towards more of intellectual freedom and free thinking. Um, Uranus is a disruptor, and can disrupt existing things, existing systems. And with Gemini, it's going to apply to how we communicate and how we learn and connect socially. Social norms can look different, communication patterns can look different, and systems around intellect and engaging can be uprooted. So, to sum it up, what we can expect during this year when Uranus enters into Gemini is innovations and communications, technology, and ideas. We can also be challenged in more off, I would say challenged in established beliefs to really break free from that. And then increased curiosity and intellectual exploration, and then breakthroughs in networking, mental freedom, like freeing up what was into what could be, and then education. Now we're going to shift and move into Neptune. Neptune is entering into Aries. So Neptune takes about 165 years to make a full journey around the zodiac, and it spends roughly about 13 to 14 years in each sign. And due to the fact that it moves so slowly, Neptune has a big impact generationally on energy and shaping things from more of a collective approach versus individual. So on March 30th, 2025, Neptune will first enter the sign of Aries. But Neptune is also going to be going retrograde as well this year. And Neptune retrogrades back on, or will retrograde on July 5th of 2025 at 2 degrees of Aries, and will retrograde back into Pisces on October 22nd, 2025. So again, we have the move forward to step back and reflect. And then in 2026, January 26th of 2026, there will be a reemergence of Neptune back into Aries. Neptune will then remain in Aries until March of 2039. So this is a long stretch as well. Neptune entering into Aries on March 30th is going to enter into the realms of new chapters and independence, fresh starts. We just talked about this with Saturn entering into Aries and self-assertion, creative beginnings. Aries is here for it. It's here for the next adventures. It is, wanting to get things going. But with the Neptune influence, this is very much going to be a focus and a shift more towards our spiritual identity, our spiritual individuality, and our awakening through assertiveness. So when we think of reconnecting with the Neptune energies, which Neptune is the planetary ruler of Pisces, this is the ocean of emotion. This is our authentic selves. This is what's going on in our subconscious. This is a reconnecting with the authentic self. Neptune dissolves illusions. It encourages us to connect with our true selves. And in Aries, this highlights big themes of emotional discovery, who we are as individuals, and our authentic nature. So we could feel very called to align our actions with our passions and what's in who we are from an inner standpoint, our inner truth. There's a lot of people that could be experiencing spiritual awakenings through taking actions during this time, because Aries is all about initiative. I mean, we've been talking about this and very much stepping into leadership. Neptune energies are going to invite a more spiritual approach to personal growth and an emphasis on the importance of aligning our actions to our inner vision. So this can be a period that's going to inspire a deeper connection to who we are and our purpose and how we lead going forward with that purpose and with confidence and courage. So this sounds great, but what can we expect to encounter? we can expect to potentially encounter self-doubt. We can encounter like blurred boundaries and illusions and not having a clear, definitive path. And this can be around our higher self and the self-identity around that. We may face uncertainty around who we are, leading to maybe a false like idea of our worth, because some of the higher octave of Neptune is this deeper connection, this purpose, the tapping into the subconscious. But with being asked to take action on it, it's not as easy as it sounds. It's kind of scary if, if my personal opinion. And but there can be uncertainty around this. So we really want to watch out for that. So all of these great ambitions, goals, and ideas don't dissolve for a lack of knowing your worth and your purpose. There can be opportunity here to heal from tendencies centered around the shoulds of who we should be, because Aries energy is all about the self, and embrace more of our authentic sense of self. And by doing that, it takes exploring what spiritual growth looks like from a more individual standpoint. Neptune in Aries is going to like very much encourage our spiritual journey, but in a way that is unique to us and that is authentic to us and that is not just, what may be told in the masses. This is personal, and there's can be a stronger need to take responsibility for your personal spiritual path and act on your personal intuition with courage and boldness. This can inspire some big, deep connections and really ignite that inner fire and sense of purpose. I want to make sure that we address that while Aries is associated with leadership, Neptune can challenge an ego-driven desire for control of our goals. So this is a fine-tuned balance, let's call it, because we could experience the desire to assert control, but it has to be led from a deeper understanding of who we are, where we want to go, but what our limitations are, and if we're doing it for us or to fulfill something that defines more social etiquette in the area of these energies. So what we can expect is a deeper sense of self-discovery and spiritual awakening through personal action, embracing our authentic identity, exploring leadership and independence with more of an intuitive or intuition and clarity around that. And then the releasing of illusions of control around this and embracing more of a flow and vulnerability. And now I would like to wrap it up with Pluto in Aquarius. We are in a 20-year cycle that started in 2024 and is one of the biggest hallmarks, I believe, of 2025 and moving forward. This is going to shape the next few decades for us. So we're going to be really diving in and exploring the potentials of this Pluto transit through Aquarius and diving into the energies, the themes, and the intentions of this sign. So for the next 20 years until 2044, we're going to witness numerous Aquarian expressions and the energies of Aquarius emerging as this transit unfolds, this transit being Pluto moving through the entire sign of Aquarius. So in 2025, Pluto will be moving to only 3 degrees, 49 minutes of Aquarius. And this is going to be initiating us even further into what we're going to be permanently evolving on the planet. So we're going to discuss this energy change, and we're going to be discussing some of the influences of the planets that are going to be going through Aquarius as well. But let's focus on Pluto first. So Pluto in Aquarius. In 2024, Pluto dipped its toes into Aquarius in on January 22nd, 2024, but it retrograded back into Capricorn on September 2nd of 2024 until making its final entry point, its journey and its presence fully into the sign of Aquarius on November 19th of 2024. So from November 19th of 2024 to January 20th, 2044, Pluto is now making its full journey through Aquarius. There will be no more interruptions from retrogrades. So Aquarius, this is marking a 20-year cycle that we're just barely getting acquainted with, but we'll be experiencing and feeling throughout this next 20 years and beyond. I mean, this is uncharted territory. And when Pluto enters, Pluto is transformation, enters into the sign of Aquarius, which is innovation. There's a transformative focus on collective evolution, our social structures, and our future for humanity. So we are going to be focusing on themes of transformation of the collective beliefs and systems. Aquarius governs innovation and progress of the collective, of our communities, of the collective as a whole. Pluto presents a push for us to transform outdated societal structures, such as the way we connect as a global community, technology, possibly political systems as well. So we can expect this shift in how we define freedom, our personal individuality and sovereigns, as well as the power of the collective. But remember, Pluto breaks down to rebuild, so it's going to break things down to a very sobering, like, realization until it builds back up. So we could see technology and communication that is revolutionary at this time. Aquarius is closely linked to technology, to data, to communication. Pluto's energy is going to bring a significant, I would say profound, transformation in these areas. This could include the rise of new technologies like AI, decentralized systems, and shift in how information is accessed and controlled. So we can witness breakthroughs and that are really going to disrupt old ways of connecting and sharing information. There can be an evolution of power and the concept of power as well as control. And Pluto is very much a dismantler of power structures that are going to no longer serve the collective. That's Aquarian energy. And in Aquarius, this is going to highlight excuse me, on like how like we can reimagine the power structures. And there's going to be a disturbance of these power structures, particularly through technology, social, and political systems. And this influence, I mean, it's gonna, I would say, centralized control can be dimming and give more of a rise to new forms of power, of governance, networks, just a different way of functioning. We are being called to embrace our individuality and the pursuit of freedom during this time. Aquarian energy emphasizes individuality, innovation, and humanitarian ideas. So Pluto's transformation and influence is going to encourage us to break free from outdated norms and explore new ways of expressing personal freedom and our authenticity. So there can be a rise in the demand for like a liberation from a collective standpoint, equality, and more inclusive approaches to the progress of society. And this, this all sounds great, but remember, Pluto it's intense energy. It burns it down to rebuild it. So Pluto in Aquarius focuses on collective well-being and the future of humanity. We could see shifts in how societies prioritize social justice, things along the line of the well-being of the planet and equality. And this transit is really going to foster a greater attention to those needs and leading to transformative changes in how we approach issues of fairness and equality. And this is a long transit. So this isn't all going to happen overnight. We're not going to be like blink and oops, everything has changed. This is a slow roll. This is going to be a long-term evolution, and one could say a rebellion from a cultural standpoint. And Aquarius energy represents a break from traditional and societal norms. Pluto encourages a deeper examination of how outdated like systems or limits to human potential, you can call them paradigms, are leading to a cultural rebellion against what the status quo has been. So we can anticipate significant shifts in areas like science, societal values, politics, education, and all of this aimed at creating a more equal and a future that's just more for the people. And I very much hope to see that. So, transformation of societal structures and governance, the rise of new technologies, focus on collective freedom and equality and justice, and the breakdown and the sweeping away of outdated belief system and power dynamics. Um, so in 2025, we not only have Pluto in Aquarius, but we have other planets also going through Aquarius and influencing Aquarius in their personal ways that are significant. So I wanted to touch on those as well, just because we do have a couple other planets that are going to influence that Aquarius theme. So we have from January 19th to February 18th, we have the Sun in Aquarius, and the Sun is pretty fast moving, but these are going to focus. This is Aquarius season, which will focus, and I'm actually filming this on the 19th of January. So very much the theme on focusing on individuality, our innovation, and collective purposes. And during the sun's transit, during Aquarius season, we're focusing on self-expression, community-oriented goals, our authenticity, personal identity and purpose, and making that connection to broader social causes that lead to more of a desire to make a difference in the world. So this is community, this is activism, this is humanitarian efforts to grow stronger and connect through shared ideas and values. Then January 28th to February 4th, we do have Mercury, the mind and the mouth, the intellect, the technology, the clear, innovative thinker, going through Aquarius. And this is going to focus on progressive ideas, communication and technology, conversations and communication with the intent to resolve around breaking boundaries and embracing new perspectives and thinking outside the box. So more of a focus on intellectual freedom, open dialogue, and challenging established norms around communication and knowledge sharing. So keep talking. And then on December 8th of 2024, this was December 8th of 2024 to January 4th of 2025. So 2024, December 8th of 2024 to January 4th of 2025, we had and have Venus in Aquarius in 2025. And this is themes around relationships, our values, and the connection rooted in freedom and equality. So Venus is in Aquarius, can look very non-conventional and can look at non-conventional approaches in the area of our values, our relationship and love. So we can look for potential shifts toward more authentic and unconventional connections. We can look at relationships centered around the individual in the union of two and equality and making sure that we're embracing our personal freedom within relationship. And humanitarianism efforts as well is going to be a bigger role in our values and relationships. And then we have Pluto. So the overall impact of Aquarius, not only just in Pluto, but with these other planets, is going to be looking at things and emphasizing the collective, looking at things from an innovative standpoint, from a freedom-seeking standpoint, and breaking free of outdated systems. There's a significant focus in the area of technology, communication, the future of humanity, our social justices, and the combination of planets in Aquarius can really foster and promote progressive thinking, social reforms, and the quest for individual and collective liberation. So these are the big astrological influences of 2025. A closing thought that I had, or kind of the big takeaway from this all, is 2025 is going to be a powerful year of transformation where we are being invited to sit at the table of change with open hearts and open minds. And as the planets are shifting, we're being called to lead authentically and with integrity and a sense of groundedness in both our spiritual growth as well as our 3D, or, how we take tangible action. But this is very much a time of awakening. We're being woken up. And this is going to be a year of breakthroughs. And these breakthroughs are going to unfold us both personally and from a collective standpoint. And there's going to be an uptick in energy. We can't duck it. I mean, we're going to be guided towards, things moving at a faster pace, but also towards deeper connections and looking at things in a more innovative way, finding solutions that are more progressive versus maybe continuing to do things the way that we've always done them and continuing to be faced with the same roadblocks. So we're getting a sense of maybe renewed purpose because of this. And ultimately, we're being asked to trust in the time of where we're at and letting it bring us closer to our highest potential. So trust in the process, honor the timing, and know that we are all in this journey together and our own individual paths, but knowing that in all of our paths, making sure that we tap into our community and not restricting ourselves to standing alone on an island. So I want to wish all of you a very beautiful 2025. Be patient with yourselves and be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, be patient with others. We're all doing our best, and I believe in all of us to start paving a different path. I believe in myself, I believe in the others around me, and I believe in humanity. And I wish you all so much peace and love as always. Happy 2025.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Ouija Boards and Midnight Marks. If you had a witch in good time, we hope that you will help us to grow this little internet coven. Please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a review so you can let us know what you're drinking tonight. As a thank you for helping us to get in good graces with the algorithm gods and helping us get seen in our community to grow, we give all who write a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify a 1-card mini reading. Want more mischief from your hosts? Follow Ouija Boards and Midnight Margs on Instagram and TikTok. We are also now streaming Season 6 on YouTube, where you can watch the podcast via video. We thank you for sharing your magic with us. Cheers, witches.